Hi everyone, so today's video is going to be a 5 years on YouTube celebration. Thank you to the almost 5,000 of you who have joined me since then, and let's jump into the questions. So the first question is, do you think Authortube impacted how often / how much you wrote throughout the past 5 years? Being an Authortuber is tough because you have to balance writing and you have to balance being an Authortuber. No, I don't really view my Authortube channel as a detriment to my writing progress because Authortube is a completely separate interest to writing. I know a lot of people think that they're congruent. For me personally, I view them as two distinct hobbies. So being an Authortuber, I see it just as being a YouTuber. I create content. I'm really used to balancing multiple hobbies at once. So the next question is, what do you think was the best thing about creating your channel? The best thing I think that has ever happened to me is that I have an audience for a series of books I never thought I'd have an audience for, and that's with Fostered. And of course, Fostered started out as something, a bit of a childhood dream. I'd wanted to publish a series, make it big, have a movie deal. Tons of people have that dream when they first start writing. And very quickly, about like a year into writing the series, or maybe just a couple of months, I realized, it's not going to happen, and that's okay. Of course, there was still that urge to share this story with the world because when you're a writer, it is a very isolating experience. It's fun to share your project and to have people invested in your project just as much as you are. And I never thought that Fostered would have that, and I'd accepted that. I was like, oh man, wouldn't it have been fun? But then eventually I grew following on here and started sharing more about the plot and the progress of the books, even though it's seriously just gonna stay for me. And people are invested in it, which is so cool. Like, people know my characters' names. I didn't ever think that that would be a thing where people knew their names and knew their personalities and knew how they interacted with each other, and you guys do now. And so I feel great sharing it. What was the worst thing about creating your channel? I think the most difficult thing is being a public figure who can be perceived. I'm sure other Authortubers or just content creators online can relate to that. The next question is, what did you do in preparation for college to be able to pursue the writing path you're taking now? So I started writing seriously when I was 12. That's the answer. I didn't actually really have much of an interest in writing, or at least I didn't perceive it to be an interest in writing until I was 12. So I started writing novels when I was 12 years old. So that's what I would call like the beginning of my writing journey. That actually helped a lot in prep for college. I'd written, I think, about 10 books before I went to university, and then I'd written a couple of short stories. I think 2 or 3 short stories. In terms of poetry, I hadn't really written that much poetry. In terms of prep, I mean, I had a lot more preparation for fiction. So with poetry, it was more just kind of writing and learning alongside my classmates. But if you know that you have to write short stories, maybe write a short story or two. You don't have to master the craft of short fiction before you start school. It just so happened to be that I'd been writing for a long time, and that's what helped me prep for university. The next question is, what are your favorite books you have read in your life? The faves that I've read, I'm just going to pull them off my shelf. Here's the first one that's right next to me. This is How to Pronounce a Knife by Suvankam Tamavangsa, and this is the best short story collection I have ever read. It is so good. It revolutionized the way that I personally write short fiction. Another book that you probably are really aware of, History of Wolves, is a huge one that I love by Emily Fridland. If you want a masterclass in atmospheric tension, this is the book. The Girls by Emma Cline is a huge one. Of course, so many people love this book, but this book was revolutionary to my writing style. So though I don't really write in the exact same way I did when I first read this book and it kind of blew my mind on language, I will forever be indebted to Emma Cline's prose in this book in particular. It really changed my outlook on how to construct prose. The next book is Demigods by Eliza Robertson. The craft is fantastic. The characters are unforgettable. The tension is so strong. Every single time I'm feeling a little bit uninspired with my prose, I read this book and I'm just like, I'm gonna read the first chapter, just to read it, just to get a little bit of zest. And I end up reading the entire thing because I can't put it down. Monkey Beach by Eden Robinson actually might be my favorite novel. I don't know. It's really competing with all of the books that I've mentioned so far, but Monkey Beach by Eden Robinson is a perfect book. If you want to read a perfect book, read that one because it's so good. In terms of poetry, because poetry, obviously, I read a lot of poetry. Undoing Hours by Selena Bowen is one that I read recently, and it's fantastic. Selena Bowen is incredible. Soft Science by Franny Choi is one of the first poetry collections I read, and it's fantastic, super experimental stuff that is extremely specific and poignant. I highly recommend. I thought I'd mention young adult books because I have been getting back into YA. I honestly was a bit of a snob. After a couple of years out of YA, like when I turned 16, I was like, I don't read YA anymore. I was a bit of a snob, I'm not gonna lie. And then I realized, why am I doing that? YA is so fun this year. So I started picking up YA again and I love it. Bitter Blue by Kristen Cashore is the best book of all time. If you are a literary fiction writer and you have not read this book is literary fiction fantasy, basically. I need to reread this because I'm writing Seventh Virtue, but I think I've read this book. This is one of my most all-time read books ever. I've listened to the audiobook a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and then I've read this book 3 times. I don't know. I've read it so much, and it's just nothing really happens in this book. It's a nothing happens fantasy, but it's so freaking good. The writing is so good. The characters are so good. The dialogue is great. The prose is specific. I just need to read this again because I love this book so much. You all know I love The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I would not be who I am without Alexandra Bracken's writing. The next question is, what are your favorite videos to watch / make on AuthorTube and why? So my favorite videos to watch, I think, are vlogs. I really like Adele Marie's vlogs. I really like Kate Kavanaugh's vlogs as well, but I also like craft videos that take a different angle. So whether that's a super craft related video, like a how to write this, or just a kind of a sit down video where AuthorTubers talk to the camera about their process. I love that. Lizelle Sambury makes a lot of these great sit down videos. Alexa Dunn makes a lot of the videos like that. I really like Abby Emmons's videos that are also like that. And I like Abby and Kate's podcast. I really like to hear AuthorTubers talk about their projects because I don't know if it's just this for me, but when I hear people so excited about what they're writing, it just excites me to write my own stuff. So it's really fun when people do share a little bit more about their projects. In terms of what my favorites are to make on AuthorTube, I used to love making vlogs, and I don't hate making vlogs anymore, but these just take me a long time to edit. A vlog will take me 6 hours to just do the first cut on. Now my favorites to make are either the Q&As or writing updates. I think you guys seem to like them too, but just videos where I'm sitting down and kind of rambling out of the top of my head and they're not super scripted. Those are my favorite videos to make. The videos that I'm most proud of are my craft videos because they're very hard to film because I can't memorize anything, so it's just extremely difficult to give the delivery to the camera. And they also take quite a lot of time to script, but I end up being very happy with those videos when they come out. Do you ever see yourself moving on to new characters after you're done with the Fostered cast? I know I still think about my old OCs even though I've moved on to new things, and how do you think you'll feel about having to make new characters? No, I don't see myself moving on to new characters. Every single time I try to stop this series, it just keeps growing, and so I just... I've stopped trying to say what I'm going to do with it. It would be nice to work on books that don't follow these characters because I haven't done that in a number of years. But who knows? We'll see what happens. My thing with writing is to put my joy first. So, of course, I write outside of the fostered characters all the time with my short stories. I write tons of short stories all the time with a whole bunch of characters that I don't really know that well. I barely know their names. I don't know if I would abandon the fostered characters forever because the series was once dystopian and then it was just contemporary, and then it was literary fiction, and now it's contemporary fantasy. So, it just keeps changing. So I'm just going to let it happen instead of saying, well, I will do this or I will not do that. Will you be doing a thesis or capstone for your writing undergrad degree? No, my program isn't structured that way, but I know many are. It just so happens that my program, you don't really have a final thing where you put all your work together. It's not really set up that way. I know a lot of master's programs are set up that way. How did you get over the fear of putting your face out on a public platform? Or did you not have that fear in the first place? So I didn't really have that fear initially. Now that I'm older, I actually have become a lot more private. What do you do when you don't have any motivation to write? Genuinely, I don't do anything about it. I know a lot of writers are like, I do this, I do that. I want to be those people. I want to know who you are, and I want you to teach me your ways. But genuinely, when I don't have motivation to write, I'm sorry, but I'm not kidding myself. I cannot do anything. I'm just going to not write. When I've truly lost motivation to write, it's probably because I'm burnt out. It's probably because I'm tired. It's probably because I need to read something, or I don't need to read anything at all, and I actually just need to take a break from writing for like 4 months. Like, that's totally fine. Most of the time, I just watch Netflix. So the next question is, and if you ever take a break from writing, I'm talking months, how do you get back into it? I'm actually kind of doing that with Feeding Habits Now. So every time I feel unmotivated, or it's been a long time, it's been like almost half a year since I worked on that book, right? What I do is I just go and reread a couple paragraphs, and I just watch my mind kind of be blown, because either it's much worse than I remember it. That doesn't usually happen. Usually I realize it is actually really, really great. Whether that's reading it aloud, I love reading my work aloud myself, or using Word has a text-to-speech feature. I'll get her to read it, like Microsoft Linda, who's like the Canadian reader. I'll get Microsoft Linda to read it to me. It's all about reacclimating myself into the work, warming myself back up into the world. I feel like I struggle in getting invested in my longer stories and characters, and struggle to finish longer works. Do you have any advice on developing characters and stories you can really get attached to? I think it's a matter of getting to know your characters, and one of my favorite exercises to get to know a new character is to write out backstory. I almost always do that. So if I write some flashbacks in their point of view, or just some notes in like third person present tense about their backstory, something a little bit about them, their family, what they were doing before they entered the book, that kind of stuff is really important in getting to know why they're currently a character in my plot. I actually didn't like Foster, Harrison, or Reeve when I started writing with them. So this is a little bit of a story for you. When I started writing Foster, I was in grade 8 writing the first book, and I was not super happy to be writing it. I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. I felt like the voice was kind of bland. I didn't really like Reeve all that much. I was like, who are you? You seem to have no personality. I don't know who you are at all. And even the other characters, so Foster and Harrison, I was like, I don't know. Foster is quiet and Harrison has a bad attitude, but why should I care about them? And then I gave the first chapter to my sister to read, and she fell in love with Harrison. She loved Harrison's character so much that I just continued writing with them for that reason, just because she liked Harrison. I didn't like my characters at all when I first started writing with them. I had no intention of sticking with them because I thought they all sucked and they were boring. What I did is just stuck with them. So sometimes it's kind of like the characters choose you. You don't really choose them. So the final question for this video is, how did you get into your other creative hobbies like art and guitar? I come from a very musical family. I grew up with music all around. Guitar was the last one that I picked up, the last instrument, the most recent one. I started playing guitar in 2015, and it was because I was listening to a lot of Ed Sheeran at the time, and I wanted to learn how to play guitar like Ed Sheeran. And so I asked my dad, hey, like, will you show me how to play guitar? I never considered myself a visual artist. From a young age, my sister was a huge visual artist. She was drawing all the Mark Crilley tutorials. And then I started writing. It was about 2016. And I was like, dude, I really want to draw my characters. I need to see them in like physical form. I was so cheap that I said, I'm going to learn an entire skill instead of paying somebody to do this. Not that I don't want to support the artists, but because like I said, I'm very cheap and I can do it myself. And so I learned how to draw because I was too cheap to commission somebody to draw my characters. That's going to be the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all the support in the last 5 years. And I will see you in another one. Bye.